Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Life-threatening bleeding injuries. Boy, they can happen anywhere at any time. And they're the leading cause of preventable deaths in this country. In fact, in those critical moments, every second counts. Someone with a severe injury can bleed to death in as little as 3 minutes. Fortunately, these deaths can be prevented with proper bleeding control techniques that are super easy to learn. Let's bring in Dr. Nilda Garcia to talk more about what is considered Stop the Bleed. It's a program out there that she is promoting. Dr. Garcia, I appreciate you being here. Tell us about this program. Good morning to you.
Good morning. So Stop the Bleed program was developed by the American College of Surgeons to empower the public to recognize a patient that's hemorrhaging and to try to help to control the bleeding. This program is very important because we know that a hemorrhaging patient, that if you can stop the bleeding, you can change the outcome of that patient. And the course is a very easy 3 steps that we teach you. One is you call 911. You identify that the patient is hemorrhaging. You put pressure with your hands on. You can pack the wound with a piece of cloth or gauze if indicated, and you can place a tourniquet if indicated. And these 3 simple steps are taught during the course.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Garcia. This focus on Stop the Bleed this month being May 1st, is there some issues when it comes to how people respond to this type of emergency? I mean, has there been research out there to suggest that people don't know what to do and they just kind of panic or go into shock?
So I think that's exactly what happens. People don't know what to do and they don't do anything. And so this course is trying to educate the public, to empower them to say, you can recognize this and you can do something. And it's very simple. The steps are simple.
Okay, so let's talk about what people can do, the important steps, once again, what people can do to learn to stop the bleeding or bleeding control techniques that they can just remember just off the top of their head.
So the course teaches you to first call 911. Then when you identify the hemorrhaging patient, you apply pressure with your hands to the wound. And then you can pack, if you can, and you have gauze or a piece of clothing, you can pack the wound with those 2 items. And then if indicated, they educate you on how to place a tourniquet if needed.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at some video that you just showed there about ways that people can learn to stop the bleeding. Can you talk about maybe some of those common scenarios, I guess, that, where Stop the Bleeding techniques can be implemented?
So these accidents can occur anywhere. And that's why it's so important for everyone to learn this, everyone in public, all age groups. They can occur in your home after an accident at home from falling. They can occur after a car accident or after a bicycle accident or a skiing accident. So once you recognize that these accidents can occur anywhere and that you recognize when a patient is actually hemorrhaging and how to control the bleeding, it is so important for the public to learn this because you can and will change the outcome of that patient.
These seem like, common scenarios that you would think most people may encounter sometime in their lives, once, maybe more than once. Tell me how people can get this course and really kind of understand exactly the best techniques in this type of emergency situation.
So the course is available through the American College of Surgeons, and there's a web page, stopthebleed.org/savealife. And you register for the course. It's a 1-hour course. They can be in person or virtual. They are free. And if there's a cost associated, it tends to be minimal. But for the most part, these courses are free at stopthebleed.org/savealife.
Okay, Dr. Nilda Garcia, American College of Surgeons committee member on trauma. We really appreciate you coming on the digital desk to talk about the Stop the Bleeding campaign. Certainly something that's very important. And again, people can go online, Stop the Bleed campaign, and learn more about this. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now let's take a live look from our High Five camera. Downtown Memphis, 55 degrees as you get up on this Monday morning, and look at that shot. That is a pretty shot, a beautiful spring day across Memphis and much of the Mid-South. 55 degrees right now. It's going to be warming up nicely throughout the day. There's another shot from our Midtown High Five camera, and it looks gorgeous. In fact, it's going to warm up to about 70 today. There is rain in the forecast. Meteorologist Spencer Denton has details.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there, so places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 in Ripley, and as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight, and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning, there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly, there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Beale Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Okay, and there's again a nice look at the bright sunny skies. We'll check back in with meteorologist Spencer Denton for another look at the forecast later this hour. Let's talk about a story we first brought you last night. It was about a shooting outside of the East Memphis Hueys on Poplar. Memphis police say an off-duty police officer approached 3 to 4 people who were breaking into, according to what officers were saying, into a Dodge Charger. One of the armed suspects then fired shots at the off-duty police officer. That officer then fired back. Investigators say one of those suspects involved arrived at the hospital with a gunshot wound, was taken to Regional 1. The off-duty officer was not hurt. It is certainly something that we continue to follow at this hour. Now, Memphis investigators were also following what happened on Beale Street over the weekend. They say 2 people were shot near Alfred's. They suffered injuries not considered life-threatening. This happened yesterday afternoon. Police do have 1 suspect in custody. But the shooting in broad daylight in the afternoon caught many tourists off guard.
It makes you feel so unsafe. It makes you want to go back to your hotel. It doesn't make you want to experience Beale Street. It doesn't want to make you see what Memphis is all about. It makes you scared. It makes you want to go back to safety.
So the owner of Alfred's released a statement saying that they were stunned about the unfortunate incident that took place on Beale Street. No one was shot inside Alfred's. And Alfreds is working fully with authorities. The names of the victim and the suspect have not been released at this time. Want to talk now about the Memphis chapter of Voices of Black Mothers United. They held What is a Day in Memphis for You? It's an event over the weekend to hear perspectives on violent crime. This happened in recognition of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Marshall Wilson, who leads this chapter in Memphis, invited young people to participate. She wanted to know what they thought about the rising crime in Memphis.
Our mission is to hopefully to get kids away from the life of crime and to focus on their futures and set them up for adulthood.
That was a 13-year-old, DeAndre Sutton. He says to get kids to adulthood, you have to get them through childhood first. And the one thing he wants to stop are kids in Memphis constantly committing and becoming victims of gun crimes. Let's talk about the next court appearance for the 5 former Memphis police officers charged in the murder of Tyree Nichols. It was supposed to be today. That has now been pushed back to June. The delay comes after a filing for the lawyer for Demetrius Haley, one of the officers charged with second-degree murder. His attorney filed the motion for continuance after several members of the news media challenged any gag orders in the case. Media Coalition motion requests an expedited hearing on that issue. That will now be on June 5th. Okay, Tennessee's legislative session is now over, and since wrapping up several bills that have targeted the LGBTQ community, they've been passed and signed by Governor Bill Lee. Action News 5's Cindy Gray reports a number of organizations supporting LGBTQ's community in Memphis are working to combat those new laws.
Some of these laws that have passed are being litigated, and some of the laws that have not been litigated yet will be litigated in the future, because there are a number of bills that did pass into law that affect our transgender community.
Shahin Sammy with the Tennessee Equality Project says it's critical to continue fighting anti-LGBTQ+ laws in Tennessee. Earlier this week, the Justice Department filed a lawsuit against the state's law banning gender-affirming care for minors. The ACLU is also suing to stop the ban, which goes into effect in July.
It's just a gamut of discrimination that's come out of our state that further marginalizes these communities, and so we're going to keep fighting collectively.
Kids are not capable of fully comprehending the true long-term risk associated with puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries.
Tennessee also made national headlines when Governor Bill Lee signed legislation banning public drag shows. The nonprofit theater company Friends of George's filed a federal lawsuit calling the bill unconstitutional.
It's caused people to really be afraid and consider whether this state, this community, places where they have grown businesses, where they have grown their roots, whether this is a safe community for them because of what's coming out of our state. And that's what's so problematic.
And while the session is over, Sammy says their fight for equality is not. He also says it's important people recognize how these bills can affect everyone.
Just because you don't see these bills and these laws directly affecting you now, they will impact you. And unfairness, just by its very virtue, that's not a Tennessean value, and that's not an American value. So we should speak up for all members of our community to be treated fairly, because that's just the right thing to do.
Sydney Gray, Action News 5.
I want to split the screen here and show you one of the stories, top stories on actionnews5.com. This is a story with regards to what happened at Lamar and Barron in the Memphis community of Orange Mound. I believe we have some video here. I'm not seeing it, but I'm not seeing it. Okay, so right now, hang on a second. Let me go to, okay, I see it. All right, so this is the video that we are looking at right now. This is what happened at Lamar and Barron. Memphis police officers there, they closed off this section of Orange Mound with crime scene tape, number of squad cars on the scene. As they investigate this shooting, they found a gun there on the roadway. Officers were there at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and they were there for the better part of 2 hours, gathering more clues, gathering more information. We do know one person was hurt. You can see this car here where the airbags were deployed. We don't know to the extent of injuries exactly what happened, but we are working to get more information. Once we do, we will certainly pass it along to you. Okay, got some good news for those who shop for groceries in Tennessee. You're going to be able to buy groceries tax-free for 3 months. So state lawmakers passed the Tennessee Works Tax Act. It's a bill promoted by Governor Bill Lee, which calls for $400 million in tax relief. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people were hoping for. This is $272 million this year for the 3-month grocery tax holiday. And so basically, you won't have to pay any kind of grocery tax for 3 months. One Memphis shopper we spoke with shared how this will help his family.
It'll go a long ways with me because I buy a lot of groceries. I got a handicapped wife and the brothers I take care of, and I have to do all the shopping. I just feel released, feel like $1 saved already.
So when you talk about tax, sales tax being 9 and 9.5%, that can add up, especially at the grocery store. Tennessee's grocery tax holiday will be August, September, and October. Tax-free items include food ingredients. Liquor is not included. Let's talk about minimum wage for a second here in Shelby County because the Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, this is one of his proposals to bring up the minimum wage to over $17 an hour for Shelby County employees. One of the details in his latest budget proposal, he wants a 1-cent drop in the tax rate, but he wants vehicle registration fees to shoot up $50 each year. That is a huge amount and something that people will be, and county commissioners will certainly debate. Mayor also wants to raise the minimum wage to $17.31 an hour. The proposal includes $350 million to rebuild Regional One Hospital and nearly $10 million for a new high school in Frazier. You can look at some of these proposals again. This is Memphis Mayor, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris's budget proposal. There are some of the issues there as you can see it. Whitehaven High School community mourning the loss of their beloved band director, Andre Newsom. The school district put out, "It's with heavy heart that we confirm the passing of our beloved high school band director. He was overjoyed to teach and share his knowledge and network with students. His music, his life, bold and vibrant. His memory will remain the same in our hearts." All right, let's talk about the Memphis Beale Street Music Festival. If you can believe it, it is set for this weekend, and the 3-day festival is back downtown at Tom Lee Park. Many people are excited about this. The renovations at Tom Lee Park are not finished yet, but construction has been put on hold for all of Memphis in May events. This year's top acts include the Lumineers, Greta Van Fleet, Robert Plant, Allison Krauss, and Earth, Wind & Fire, as well as Glorilla. Single-day tickets are still available, by the way. I wanted to show you some of the issues here, or some of the costs. Tickets are still available. 3-day pass costs $205. A single-day pass, if you just want to go one of the days, $85. You can get a link to those tickets on our website, actionnews5.com. Let's talk about this federal push right now to keep young kids off of social media, or at least address the issue with parents, because lawmakers are looking to address mental health, because that is such an issue when it comes to social media, and particularly younger teens and preteens. Mental health crisis. Many of the professionals in the mental health world say that a lot of it is fueled by social media. And so now in the federal push, they're looking to not only hold some tech accountability accountable for this, but they're also looking to get parents involved. Ivan Rodriguez reports.
A bipartisan group of senators unveiling legislation this week that would establish 13 as the national minimum age for social media use and create strict standards for verifying a user's age.
Making young people feel the very ways that we as parents and as a society don't want them to feel is built into the business model.
The proposed bill also requires parental consent for users aged 13 to 17 and bans tech platforms from using teens' personal information to target them with content or advertising.
Social media companies have a duty to help keep kids safe and parents informed, or face serious consequences.
Lawmakers say the legislation is in line with guidance from the U.S. Surgeon General.
The skewed and often distorted environment of social media often does a disservice to many of those children.
Senator Richard Blumenthal is working on a separate bill to address the problem and says he has concerns about this version. Tech accountability advocates agree the bill is focused on the wrong issue.
This bill doesn't actually put any responsibility onto the tech companies. Instead, it's putting more responsibility onto parents and young people to kind of self-police.
Nicole Gill with the nonprofit Accountable Tech argues law should incentivize tech companies to redesign their platforms to protect mental health and privacy.
We have an opportunity right now to rethink the way that these platforms work for young people, and we should take it.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gersley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say two big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the two biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I am not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through. Swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school or you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this like taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's like with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in college, starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and they would you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans. When a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing, because they do have to pay that back at some point?
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans. And I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out, and financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement. Because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax, typically, when it's a 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say, looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. Do you feel, I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
Definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there. And I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book, I talk about what debt is, and it's really just money we owe for something we bought. It doesn't mean we're bad or that we did something wrong, or it could be a certain time in our life, it could be a mistake we made. But from there, really, I think sometimes when we have so much shame around the debt, it has us even not look at it. So I take everyone through a 3-step process to make a plan to manage and pay down debt by starting with looking at what it actually is. And that can be as stressful as that sounds to list out all that information. It can be really eye-opening. And then once we know what's happening, we can make a plan to manage it. So always better to have that information than to not look.
And educating yourself about what you need to know is so important. And you were mentioning about paying that minimum. I had a friend that during that age time between 18, early 20s, she got a bunch of credit cards and she told me, she's like, just pay the minimum payment. And I'm like, this is terrible advice. I guess any final points you want to make before we let you go?
I go back to that taking small, consistent steps. And you mentioned earlier why I wrote this book. And because so many of the things that you're mentioning are things that I made mistakes with. And I studied finance, I worked in finance, and I still knew nothing about my own finances. And so this is something that we are not set up for. So we want to learn as much as we can. And my goal is in writing this book and in the work I do that others don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and can progress through their financial lives with a lot less stress and potentially heartache.
Well, Ashley Feinstein Gerstley, the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some really great advice and some really good tips for our viewers this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, May is Mental Health Month. How is your mental health these days? There's always some form of news out there that addresses mental health, especially coming out of the pandemic here, 3 years since the pandemic began. We're always focused a lot more on mental health. In fact, Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading community-based nonprofit, has dedicated to addressing the needs of those living with mental illness and is encouraging everyone to consider how the world around them affects their mental health, from their neighbors to genetics. Let's talk more about this with the president and CEO of Mental Health America. Schroeder Stribling is joining us on the Digital Desk. I appreciate you joining us and telling us what apparently you have some data when it comes to mental health in 2022. Really interested in hearing some of your data. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and thanks for highlighting this month. So you're correct, May is Mental Health Month. This is a tradition that was started by Mental Health America in 1949, and we look at this as a really great annual reminder and opportunity to check in on our mental health and the mental health and well-being of our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, and our communities. And in conjunction with the start of Mental Health Month, we have released a report today that talks about the data from our National Prevention and Screening Program, which was launched in 2014. So about 6.3 million people came to take a self-test and check in on their mental health in 2022. And the results that we got were concerning, especially with regard to youth. They're consistent with what we've seen before, but they really tell us a great deal about who's in the most distress, and they draw our attention especially to folks who are 24 years and younger.
Schroeder, I have two older teenagers, and they constantly tell me a couple of things. They tell me that social media and the phone devices, smartphones, whatever, tablets, they seem to be, when it comes to mental health issues and things that distract or hurt their mental health, those two issues, social media and screens or devices like an iPhone or any kind of smartphone, really hurt. Based upon your research and whether it's this survey and others, is that what you're seeing?
You are absolutely right that there's a lot of conversation about what is the role of social media in the youth mental health crisis. And no doubt there is a correlation. And so I think your kids are right, and they're insightful to know that the social media and technology is having an effect on their mental health. One of the things that we do know is that about, as I mentioned, about 3/4 of those 6.3 million screeners were youth. And the most popular screen that people take is for depression. Anxiety comes next. And about half of the youth who took a screen for depression reported that they were having frequent thoughts of suicide. So that gives us a sense of the degree of the problem. And then when you ask people, what are the reasons for their distress? The three most popular answers given, and remember this is largely from young people, are concerns about body image, self-image, and relationships. And when we think about social media, certainly those issues of body image and self-image and relationships are all impacted by social media, which is mediating a lot of those relationships and which is giving youth a lot of sometimes distressing feedback about their self-image or their self-worth or their body image. So I think it is definitely one of the contributing factors and something for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a major contributing factor for sure. It's really interesting to hear some of that data coming from your screening data, Mental Health America. I understand that housing stability and home environment also plays a pretty large part of our mental health role. Explain that to me.
Yes, so each year we choose a theme for Mental Health Month, and this year our theme is Look Around and Look Within. So in addition to this being a reminder for folks to check in on their own mental health, it's a reminder to think about how the natural and built environments around us are affecting our mental health. Now, there are some things that we have greater control over than others. Housing stability, sometimes we have greater control over that, but safety in the home, health in the home, where we can make positive changes, we want to encourage people to do that. So as we do every year for Mental Health Month, we've published a toolkit, and this year's toolkit is about looking around and looking within, helps people understand how they can get to that screening, take a self-test, check in on their own mental health, but also what they can do with the natural environment around them. And that could be as simple as changing the setup of the room that you live in or the apartment where you are, or spending time outside. And outside doesn't mean necessarily that you have to get to a national park. It might just mean that you're able to spend a little bit of outdoor time. For instance, I grew up in a small apartment in New York City, and there was a little tiny porch that we had, but it allowed for some outdoor time. So that's important to people's mental health. And those are the kind of tips and tricks that you'll find in our toolkit for this year.
You know, Schroeder, you stole my question there, because I was talking about Mother Nature with my kids, and they always love, whether it's a bike ride, going to a park. In Memphis, we have one of the largest urban parks in America. It's Shelby Farms Park. But our surrounding areas, there's tons of parks where people go and they can just walk and connect with nature and get, I guess, a clearer mind, just kind of just get away from the hustle and bustle of whether they're connected on a device or in classrooms or various settings, work, what have you. Having that Mother Nature connection can, I would think, really clear the mind a lot. Is that what you're seeing in some of your research? And what else are you seeing, ways that people can find maybe some good habits?
Well, you've really put your finger on something very important. Outside time and getting outdoors is enormously important to our mental health. There's lots of research that tells us. And once again, this does not have to be a national park. Just any outdoor time is good for folks. In fact, this May, we are partnered up with LL Bean for a challenge about outdoor time, and we're hoping to get people to log 500,000 hours of time spent outdoors during May. Could be any kind of outdoors, and you can find at our website, mhanational.org, you can find more information about our LL Bean challenge to spend time outdoors. Pardon me. So that's enormously important. The other thing that I would recommend is that we have a new book out in addition to our May Mental Health Toolkit. And our book is called Where to Start. And the title really says it all. It's about how to start thinking about mental health and mental health in your own life, how to be aware of what supports you best in your own mental health, and how to attend to our well-being, as well as checking in on that of our loved ones and family members and others.
You and I are on the same wavelength here, because my question now is, and I don't want to give the book away, but if there were, let's say, 3 bullet points about where people can begin, and we've already mentioned, clearing your mind, going on a walk or somewhere, maybe in a park or something like that. If you were to give people maybe 3 bullet points on how to start bettering your mental health, and we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here, where would you start with those 3 bullet points?
Well, the first, I think, and the most important is to get informed, is to get information. So just like we would about our bodily and our physical health, we need information so that we can take care of our mental health. And we need to know how we can check in on our mental health. So you can find a lot of information about mental health in general at our website, mhanational.org, or in the book. But the other thing that you can find is a link to our National Prevention and Screening Program. And that's the program where the free and anonymous platform that I mentioned before, where people can take any one of 11 validated tests, self-tests, to get more insight about how they're doing and to learn a little bit about their own mental health. So I think those are the most important things to start with. And then the last thing I would mention is to intervene or take action early. If you have signs of distress for yourself, if you're noticing changes in your mood, your appetite, your sleeping, your behavior that are concerning to you, get help early. So starting might be about taking a mental health test or screening, might also be about talking to a trusted loved one or sharing with someone, a therapist perhaps, how you're feeling, to see about getting help. So getting help early. And if you do find yourself in crisis, very important to know that we have a new resource. It's about a year old now, 988. For anyone who doesn't know about this new number, you can call or text 988 for a mental health crisis. And the goal is to have a mental health response to a mental health crisis. So that's another important resource that we like to get out during this Awareness Month.
Schroeder Schribbling with Mental Health Awareness, or Mental Health America, the president and CEO. Really appreciate our conversation, and I think we really helped people kind of address this issue and help them if they need help out there, and just really kind of being in the know when it comes to what to do and some of the problems. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there. So places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 in Ripley, and as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight, and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Bill Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Okay, Memphis tourism. So leaders there say more and more organizations are choosing to host their events in Memphis. Okay, so numbers show a pre-pandemic rebound for tourists to the Bluff City. Landing big conventions here could help numbers grow even more. Memphis Tourism debuted its latest campaign to attract more conventions to the Mid-South. According to tourism leaders, the convention center is almost completely booked for the rest of 2023.
2022, it was the busiest in the history of our convention center. The Renaissance Convention Center this year in 2023, believe it or not, only has 40 dark days out of 365. So for 320 days in 2023, there is something going on at our downtown Renaissance Convention Center.
Okay, and there are regional visitors. Of course, we all know about those visitors from places like Nashville and Little Rock, but Memphis is also seeing an increase in international visitors. Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia are leading the way. In Australia, in a celebration more than 100 years in the making, a group of more than 30 African-American families in Collierville celebrated a multi-million-dollar sale of their family's land. A ceremony on Bailey Station Road celebrated the sale of the site to the independent hardware company Orgill Incorporated. It was a huge part of the families for generations. They purchased the land to grow crops and provide for their families. For the last 23 years, these landowners banded together to prevent the ruling of eminent domain and acquire a fair market value sale.
It's about, just knowing your rights and having the fortitude to, take your time to demand what you deserve to be given. And so these families, 23 years in it with me, and they have a wonderful, glorious day today.
Well, it's both ways. It's kind of sadness, and then, we feel good about it because a lot of the ancestors are, passed on, and probably been left in the hands of the great-grandkids.
Okay, so the land was sold for an undisclosed amount of money. It's unclear exactly what Orgill plans to do with the property. Actor Jim Belushi has a new deal to grow new medical marijuana strains in Mississippi. His farm in Oregon is 93 acres there. It's currently partnering with Southern Sky brand to grow 2 new strains of medicinal cannabis in Canton, Mississippi. Belushi picked Oxford's Double Decker Arts Festival. Spread the word.
The Blues Brothers is music, mischievousness, and a mission from God. And cannabis is akin to music, it's mischievous, and the medicine is definitely a mission from God. So I've been trying to create this Blues Brothers brand, and Southern Sky Brands and I have partnered up here in Mississippi because, their purpose and my purpose are akin, and it's about the medicine.
Belushi says he's got 2 new strains coming to Mississippi as early as next week. Again, this stuff is only available to patients with medicinal cannabis cards. All right, new approach to treating babies exposed to opioids during pregnancy is showing some success. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine shows that the Eat, Sleep, and Console care approach helps newborns get out of the hospital sooner. Eat, Sleep, Console prioritizes care that doesn't involve medication. Instead, parents use techniques like skin-to-skin contact. The current approach involves nurses measuring a baby's withdrawal symptoms before providing treatment like morphine. Many people are headed over to the drugstore oftentimes to get the over-the-counter cold and allergy medicine. We do have Will Puckett explaining what causes this sick season and what you can do about it.
It's that time of year where many are grabbing for tissues and Kleenex to wipe away those runny noses and cover those nasty coughs.
Springtime in East Tennessee is pretty bad. We not only have high levels of tree pollen, but we get high levels of mold depending on how much moisture's in the air.
Dr. Ty Prince at the Allergy, Asthma, and Sinus Center is reacting to the number of cases he and his colleagues are seeing right now.
I've also seen a lot of patients who have common colds that are lasting, instead of 4 to 7 days, 10 to 14 days, sometimes 21 days.
What many love about living in East Tennessee, its natural beauty, easy travel access, and employment opportunities, could be what's making those allergies even worse.
We have higher levels of diesel-based pollution and sulfur-based pollution.
Interstate 40 and I-75, plus the surrounding power plants, along with the trees and pressure changes, all driving those pesky and sometimes unbearable allergies.
That type of pollution promotes the development of allergies.
While the allergy question seems straightforward, the sickness question may be a bit more complicated.
We might have lost those micro exposures that we get on a day-to-day basis when we're out in public, that kind of thing.
Dr. Prince says the driving force behind cold, strep, and anything worse than a seasonal allergy, it's only a guess that it's traced back to COVID.
Maybe even some of the viruses that have survived on the countertops and on the doorknobs might be more resistant because they weren't getting passed around.
But proving that near impossible. In the meantime, over-the-counter medicine or a doctor's prescription may be your best bet of fighting off things like this.
Let's talk about the NFL Alumni Association and the Shelby County Health Department teaming up for health and wellness. Both groups hosted a wellness event over the weekend as part of the Gear Up Tennessee. It's a statewide vaccine campaign. Several former Tennessee Titan players were there to help share the information.
You know, a lot of times we're afraid to ask questions. We're afraid to step out and try to get the information that they need for COVID. And that's what a lot of people are doing right now is saying, you know what, I'm afraid to ask questions. I'm afraid to get the booster shot. I have concerns. I don't really know what's going on. But now we can maybe answer those questions to make sure they're informed.
And organizers say that these events are designed to promote engagement with various portions of the community across the state of Tennessee. All right, the Memphis Grizzlies now home for the rest of the year. They lost in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Game 6, they lost to the Lakers by 40 points. As we look to the future, one of the biggest questions surrounding the team is what is going to happen in the future when it comes to talking all the talk and all the off-court troubles with Ja Morant, for example. He served an 8-game suspension following a number of different incidents. He spent a portion of that in a Florida counseling center to work on managing stress and anxiety. It came after he flashed a gun at a Colorado nightclub. We asked if Ja feels like he's in the best headspace right now going into the offseason. This is what he said.
Yeah, probably so. Definitely could be better. So, now it's just, taking that time to, get away from basketball a little bit and, focus a little more on that. I feel like, being available is the number one thing for me. It's times this year, where injuries had me out. The incident where I got suspended, had me away from the team. Even, playing, with injuries. I just want to be, healthy and available.
Grizzlies general manager Zach Kleiman, an NBA Executive of the Year, did say he's proud of the work Ja has put in to make better decisions and live a healthier lifestyle. But the issue certainly also in the offseason, a lot of talk about what to do with Dillon Brooks. His contract's up. Well, LeBron posted on Instagram after the win on Friday when they beat Memphis by 40. He posted, "If you ever see me fighting in the bear with a Grizzly, help the bear." That was clearly a jab at Dillon Brooks, who, after Game 2, when the Grizzlies won, he said LeBron was old and that he pokes bears and saying he doesn't respect anyone until they drop 40 on him. Again, the focus on Dillon Brooks. It is certainly something where a lot of people are very divided when it comes to Dillon Brooks. What to do with him, what to do with him in the offseason, re-sign him, let him go. He's a very divisive figure. He did get fined because he did not speak to the media after the games. Of course, it's NBA policy to speak with the news media after the games. He was fined $25,000 for not speaking after the 125-85 loss. Grizzlies front office not making any decision about his future, just saying that they'll discuss that later.
Hey, it's Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and I want to tell you about this nonprofit that is dedicated to helping foster children that's making its way to the Memphis area, and I think it's going to do some incredible work. I'm so excited to talk to you about this more. We have Virginia Roberts that's joining us now with Isaiah 117 House. Good morning, Virginia. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to be talking with you. I think this is a great topic, and I think that the work that this nonprofit is going to bring to Memphis is going to be incredible. I've done several stories in the past with children that have been in the foster care system and aged out, and they always talked about the foster care system being broken in so many ways. I think that what this nonprofit is going to do here in the Memphis area is going to be great. So let's talk a little bit more about Isaiah 117 House and what it's all about.
Great. So the Isaiah 117 House actually began in the heart of Rhonda Paulson back in 2014. She and her husband in Elizabethton, Tennessee started their foster care classes to become a foster parent. And one of those classes involves going to a DCS office and kind of seeing what the process looks like. And at that time, they found out that children, often when they're removed from their home, go to wait a placement in the DCS office, which feels a lot like the DMV. It was never intended for children. And post-COVID, things take a lot longer for the placements. There's fewer foster families and such. And so at that time, she just said, what if there was a home where the children could come rather than going to a DCS office to sit and wait, that they could go to a house where there would be volunteers there who is their job to lavishly love on these children. They'd be offered a bubble bath or a hot shower, home cooked meals. They could play outside with volunteers, all while the caseworker gets to have a private office where they can make those phone calls for the placements and just find the right placement, the volunteer gets to help take care of the child, lighten the load of the caseworker. And then when they do find a placement, we help ease that transition for the foster child and the family by helping provide them with whatever they need, car seats, formula, clothes. And so it just really changes the way that foster care begins.
And I think that's so important because, like you said, the DHS, it was not set up for a kid to be sitting in there, and just the emotional and the trauma that those children are already experiencing. So having something like this is great. And I love that this started in Elizabethton, Tennessee. My dad actually grew up in Elizabethton, Tennessee, small world. But you know, I know that this is something that you're passionate about. Can you share a little bit about your story?
Sure, I would love to. So our family began our foster care journey about 7 years ago, and we sat in the same classes to become a foster family. And I can remember thinking about what removal day might look like for a child. And at that time, I was imagining a child being rescued from a bad situation, immediately taken to a loving foster home where they would just automatically feel safe and all would be well. But after 7 years, I've tragically realized that is not removal day. Removal day is a child's worst day. It's a day where they have a stranger that comes into their home, says, you need to come with me. Here's a bag to pack some of your things. There's a lot of maybe chaos in the house. They're being taken away from everything they've ever known, their mom, their pets, maybe their favorite blanket that they forgot, and all of the shuffle. And then they're taken to a place that was never intended for children to wait. So after we finish our foster care classes, we've had many placements and people through our house or children through our house. And in November of 2020, we actually adopted our youngest son, Josiah, through foster care. And so at that time, we had 5 kids, 9 and under. And I can remember our caseworker, she started to write the paperwork to close our home. And we said, no, just wait, we know the numbers, we know the need. At this time, there's over 1,200 children in foster care just in Shelby County. That's more than double the next county in Tennessee. And so we said, no, we've got more room in our heart, more room in our home, even though our septic system would probably tell you differently. And so we said, we can take a teen girl because there's a huge need for foster families to take teenagers. So it wasn't long before we got a phone call, not for 1 girl, but for 2 teen girls. And when they call you for a placement, they only tell you what you need to know. So we didn't know that Mia and Trinity had spent 7 long days bouncing between a DCS office and emergency respite placement so that they would have a place to rest their head that night. We didn't know that they had spent 7 days hearing rejection call after rejection call, just feeling unloved and unwanted. And so we also didn't know that we were the very last call that they were making before they split the sisters up and started back at the top of the list. So thankfully we said yes. That day they came into our home, and a short 6 months later, they became a part of our forever family. We adopted them as well. So now we have 7 children, 3 that have gone through the foster care system that we've adopted. So it's very close to our heart. It's would have changed their story a lot if there would have been a home that they could have gone to.
Yeah, and I love that you brought in both of the sisters where they didn't have to get split up. I had a meteorologist that worked with me when I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and he went through the adoption process, and he was initially going to adopt 1 child, but then it was going to be separating 2 sisters, so he took in both. And so you find that happens a lot. You know, I told you I was doing stories about, you know, working with children that had aged out, and they were separated from their siblings and then trying to find their siblings again. So, you know, it was great that you were able to do that. And did you always feel like that adoption and fostering was something that you were interested in doing?
When my husband and I were actually dating forever ago, it was always kind of a conversation that we felt like adoption was going to be a part of our family. And then when we started to want to have a family, we were looking at private domestic adoption. We did some things through Life Choices. But then as we were having children, we kind of transitioned away from that because private adoption can be very expensive. And so that's when we kind of looked into foster care, and we were an open home with Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. And we, at that point, after we'd taken the classes, and like I said, we knew the numbers and the need, our hearts were just broken. And we said, whether this ends in adoption or not, this is what we're called to do.
And I know you, at one point we talked about just trying to find those foster homes. Is there a lack of people that are being a part of that foster care system? I know you were mentioning 1,200 kids right here in Shelby County. I mean, that's just devastating to think about in itself. What message would you send to those who maybe have thought about being a foster parent, and just how great this need is?
Yeah, there's a huge need. They're always having the classes. It's an 8-week class called Tennessee Key. The first one is completely informational that you can just go to. There's no commitment. You can hear about what the needs are in our county and kind of what it might look like. And so I would encourage anyone, Tennessee Baptist Children's Homes are always having them. And then Department of Children's Services has them, I think, every month. So if you could go on the website and check it out and just find out more, even if you're interested. And there's other ways to get involved. Not everyone's called to be a foster parent, but that is a huge need right now for sure.
And I think it's great that Isaiah 117 House is coming here in Memphis. I know they had locations in other parts of the state. This is the first here in West Tennessee, and they're also based in other states as well. And like you said, the need with so many kids in that foster care system, this is going to be a great bridge for them to be able to have that smoother transition, even though they're dealing with that traumatic experience in itself. I know that there's going to be a kickoff event that's going to be coming up towards the end of the month. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we would love for anyone who's interested in being a part of the Isaiah 117 House. There's so many opportunities to get involved at every level, to come to the kickoff event that we're having this coming Sunday, April 30th. It's at 3 o'clock at Harding Academy. And Rhonda Paulson, the founder and director, is going to be there to be speaking and just sharing the mission and the vision and finding out how to get involved.
And let's talk about where this location is, where y'all are going to be located.
Currently, we don't have a house yet. So after we kick off, once the community once we launch our awareness campaign and a lot of people know that there's a need, then we're looking for land. We're looking for donated houses that we can a lot of the houses have been remodeled. Some of them are new builds on land. And so just asking for people to help connect us. We're actually going to have 2 houses in Shelby County starting out, which is exciting. We definitely want to stay closer to the downtown, midtown area, because that's where the DCS office is, and 40 South Main. So we'd like to have a closer access to that. So yeah, we'd love any leads that anyone has on that.
Yeah, is there a website that's been set up yet, or where an email address where people can, if they're watching right now, we have thousands of people that watch us on our stream. Is there a way that they can connect with you guys if they say, hey, I want to get involved with this and the work y'all are doing?
Absolutely. We have a Facebook and Instagram account. If you put in Isaiah 117 House, Shelby County, Tennessee, you can find us there, or you can email at shelbytn@isaiah117house.com.
Virginia, this has been a great conversation, and I'm so excited about this. Is there anything else you feel like we missed that you want to make sure we hit on before we let you go?
After we kick off on Sunday, we're going to be having monthly expansion meetings where anyone from the community can come and join our team and help just get this off the ground. We would love help spreading the awareness of our event and just opportunities to help.
Well, Virginia, I really appreciate you joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and good luck with the kickoff event and just all the excitement headed your way over the next couple months with this new venture.
Thank you.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there, so places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 in Ripley, and as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight, and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Bill Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Well, you know, spring is full of all kinds of celebrations. Mother's Day, you got Father's Day, you got graduations. Of course, there's summer travel, too. When you look ahead to the summer season, there's so much fun. But here's the deal, the fun that can get expensive and add up quickly. So let's talk about some tips and tricks to stay on a budget right now. We have Barbara Majeski, who is joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. She's a mom, she's a TV personality, a cancer survivor, and a philanthropic advocate. Barbara, good morning to you. Where do we start when it comes to tips and tricks and staying on a budget and saving while also having a good time?
Well, good morning. And I'm personally excited for Mother's Day, graduation, spring parties. And I've been looking for ways to turn my spending into earning this spring. And if you're anything like me, you're looking to be financially savvy and maximize every dollar you spend. So I'm suggesting a heartfelt DIY gift, making a card, baking their favorite treat, or for those hosting, reimagining your space. So instead of paying for a party venue, maybe create like a backyard picnic or go to a local park. Another great tip is to see if your credit card has special offers or benefits that earn you cash back. For example, Chase Freedom Unlimited recently launched their May Month of More, where card members can save up to 15% on gift cards and earn up to 10% cash back from favorite brands like Nike, Sephora, or Neiman Marcus. Points go 10% further when you redeem them at the Apple Ultimate Rewards store.
What about some other tips, Barbara? I mean, we're looking at all kinds of things. Mother's Day, a lot of graduations happening, summer travel, Father's Day. What are some other tips you have?
Yeah, absolutely. How about for that recent grad in your life, getting them a Home Chef or Wayfair gift card as they prepare to live on their own, or ordering a fresh bouquet from Pro Flowers or perfume from Sephora for this Mother's Day. But regardless of the gift, you'll want to be earning a cash back with the Chase Freedom Unlimited credit card. In addition to all their benefits, Both your loved ones and your wallet will have a reason to celebrate. And if you're not a Chase Freedom card member, you may want to apply. Card members are always earning with unlimited 1.5 cash back on all purchases. Plus, your rewards never expire as long as your account is open. And as if it couldn't get any better, Freedom Unlimited card members can also earn 5% cash back on travel purchased through Chase's Ultimate Rewards, 3% cash back on dining and drugstores, and 1.5% cash back on all other purchases. So you're always earning when celebrating the spring and beyond.
All right, Barbara Majewski, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much. Okay, in our quest to highlight the people, places, and things that make us proud to call the Mid-South home, this morning's 5-star story offers an unparalleled adventure. We are talking about Go Ape at Shelby Farms Park. Have you ever been to Go Ape? It is incredible. I've taken my kids, I've taken friends there. So much fun. Kim Clark goes to the zip line and adventure park at Shelby Farms. Now, take a look.
If you can handle heights and heart-stopping rope courses in the trees, then Go Ape Zip Line at Adventure Park on North Pine Lake Drive at Shelby Farms is definitely for you.
It's pretty awesome.
Lauren Hansel is the assistant site manager, and although I'm no fan of heights, she helped me conquer my fears.
Like it's right after it, they're marked. Make sure it stays even on the back.
Then alert an instructor.
And you can go ahead and put that caribou.
I began with the Treetop Adventure, a 2 to 3 hour long trek featuring tree-to-tree crossings 36 feet high.
Ready? I don't know if I am. Here it goes.
And zip lines across a serene pine lake.
We have 5 zip lines that go back and forth across the lake right there. And it's one of the most amazing experiences that you can have out here.
I began with the big one.
You have to be at least 10 years old and 4'7" to complete that course.
Which is why many opt for a somewhat easier introduction to Go Ape. Go Ape first came to Shelby Farms back in 2015, bringing outdoor fun for everyone. Like this treetop journey, which is supposed to be a beginner's rope course.
In 2021, though, we did open up Treetop Journey. That is the smaller course right here behind me. It is for all ages, and it's a set 1-hour activity to go through as many times within an hour as you can.
If you're more in favor of keeping your feet on the ground, the adventure doesn't stop.
We offer axe throwing that opened in 2020, and that's a 1-hour time period for you to throw axes for an hour straight. We opened up our mini golf course last year in 2022. That is 18 holes just through the park trails of mini golf. Some people have said this is one of the most challenging mini golf courses they've ever done. And last year we also opened up an outdoor escape room called Forest Escape, and that's for 1 hour. You're going to solve some puzzles, and you have that 1 hour to escape, essentially.
Whether you're looking for fun up in the air or firmly on the ground, Go Ape Zipline at Adventure Park amplifies the opportunities that await inside one of the largest urban parks in the country. Just one more reason we love calling this place home.
Go Ape is all about living life adventurously, so we want people to come out here and conquer their fears or just have a great time with their friends and family. We just are all about living life adventurously, really.
At Shelby Farms Park, I'm Kim Clark.
All right, college AP exams start May 1st. Do you remember taking those AP exams? You know, they really do matter. You know, a lot of people say, they don't matter. No, they do. and it's a big deal, and it's something that we should talk about with our friend David Blobom joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Now, we knew David way back when, but he has gone national now. He's a recognized expert in the entrance exam, college admission industries, the director of outreach for the National Test Prep Association. David, welcome back to the Action News 5 digital desk. How are you?
Thanks. Doing great. It's great to be here. And actually, Angela's segment also applies to high school students, so they definitely need to check their social media as well.
Oh yeah, Angela's fantastic, and I agree with you. Yeah, you can apply that in so many different ways. But you know, the AP exams, they start May 1st. So I've had kids that are dealing with that, and they've dealt with that in the past. What do you tell people? Because a lot of people, well, they don't matter, but they really do, don't they?
Yes, so they matter in some ways that students don't think about because they're in high school and it matters for college. So there's three main ways that AP exams help students. So if you can get AP credit in college, then you can take fewer courses in college and have an easier time, or you can potentially graduate early and save money, or you can get rid of those core requirements early and then take more advanced classes in your interests. The less important usage of them is for admissions and actually getting accepted to the schools. It's really only the top schools that look at AP exam scores like that, but that's a consideration as well. And students just need to keep in mind, they're like any other tests. Preparation is key, but they can succeed.
That is a great breakdown of why it's so important. I mean, various reasons here. Fewer courses, get to graduate early, maybe an opportunity to take some other advanced courses. No, that's great. That's great. What do parents need to know when it comes to studying for these exams? I know that the studying can be overwhelming at times for some students.
Yeah, so the best way to do that prep is hopefully they're doing it in school, but students should be taking released AP exams and seeing how they're doing on those released exams. And then, you know, if it's AP chemistry, seeing what topics did they miss, and then just making sure that they go to their teacher at school, or they learn those topics on their own, or they enlist the help of a good tutor who will actually help them learn those topics.
Fantastic. You know, I always enjoyed our conversations early on, David, when we talked about the SAT and the ACT, because there's so much emphasis on that, although there have been some colleges that have kind of excluded that in their admissions process, or so they say. You know, I've asked this question before, but I think it's an important question to ask again. When it comes to your students who are getting ready for college admissions, should they take the SAT or the ACT? Which one should they take, and why should they take it?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of confusion about it. And there are some schools that are test blind, meaning they won't even look at your SAT, ACT results, even if you send them. But that's only 6% of schools in the country. 88% of schools in the country are what's called test optional, which means they're inviting you to send your SAT and ACT scores because they still care about SAT and ACT scores. And so good scores will always help a student's chances of admission, more merit aid, and scholarships. So the tests really are still advantageous, and students should take a practice exam or potentially the real exam of either, because you can pick and choose which test dates you want to send into colleges. So there's no downside to taking the real test. But once you figure out which test is the best for you, you can just keep taking that until you hit your score goal. You want to finish by November 1st of your senior year, because that's when early application deadlines for early decision and early action deadlines are for most colleges. So for the SAT, students can still take the May, June, August, and October SATs. For the ACT, they can still take the June, July, September, and October tests. So plenty of opportunities.
Should students go into it with a goal? I know with my kids, and they're past this process now. We had a goal that, okay, 30. on the ACT. That was our goal. If you can get 30 or above, you know, we will reward you with a financial stipend. But is that a good idea? I mean, I guess you really got to know your child and what motivates them to do well, right?
So that's a fantastic idea. And there's two ways to break that down. There, you can look up the schools that you're applying to, and a lot of them will just have a chart of if you get this score and have this GPA, which the GPA limits are much easier to hit. So basically, if you hit this SAT or ACT score, we're going to give you this much money per year, maybe $10,000, $15,000. So definitely look up on the school's websites, can I get money for a certain score? So that's for getting money. Then there's the admissions piece. And as far as setting a score goal for an admissions piece, I would look up all those schools again and look up their median SAT and ACT score. You want your SAT and ACT score to hit that or be above that for your scores to actually help you in admissions.
Let me ask you this. One of the last conversations we had, David, was about ChatGPT. And it's so interesting because right after we had that conversation, I saw it everywhere. Like everyone was talking about ChatGPT. So I like to say we're on the cutting edge here on the digital desk with you. How has that changed the test, if it has at all?
So speaking of the cutting edge, the last time we talked about it, it was version 3. Now, version 4 just came out a few weeks ago. It's changed everything again. And I should preface this with, I'm not encouraging students to do this because they shouldn't be doing this. But what students are doing now that version 4 is out is version 4 can almost perfectly copy the writing style of any writing that you put into it. So what students are doing is they're taking the essays of students who have been admitted to top colleges. They're inputting those essays and then saying, write my application essay in that style. And Johns Hopkins, for instance, on their website, which they should really remove, there's over 40 essays that worked. And so students can literally just put, I tried it out, and they can just put that into ChatGPT, say, write this essay for me, and in under a minute, they will get a top 1% essay. So if colleges don't adapt, they're really in trouble. They really need to do either proctored essays or interviews or do something to guarantee authentic content from their applicants.
That really sounds very scary and a big issue they need to address ASAP. You know, I would think, David, that they would kind of highlight it when it comes to, you know, the ACT or the SAT. Got to do the essay, of course, in person. But wow, for an application, I don't know how you make sure it's authentic.
I completely agree. And the SAT, unfortunately, actually discontinued its essay, and the ACT still has its essay, but no one needs to take it because colleges don't even look at it. So I really think that they need to rethink that because right now they don't have any verified content from applicants. And to be honest, this was already a problem. I mean, you can Google, write my application essays for me, and there's a million firms that are out there to write your essays for you. Again, students should not do that, but it was always provided basically to the wealthy. The irony is ChatGPT has now allowed everyone to cheat. It's democratized cheating, which is wrong, but hopefully it will be enough to push colleges to actually fix the problem that already existed and is just much larger now.
Wow, interesting stuff. Very cutting edge as always, David. Thank you for that. What else can we talk about with regards to AP exams, SAT, ACT, that whole process that we haven't talked about already?
And one thing to put on people's radar is that next year, the SAT is changing from its current format from a 3-hour paper exam into a 2-hour digital exam that's going to be adaptive. So it's actually a good change, but for any families who have a sophomore right now, they need to be aware that in the middle of their child's junior year, that SAT is going to completely change. So the current SAT is only going to be offered until December 2023. The next SAT that's offered is in March of 2024. Very different test. So students should not start prepping for the current SAT unless they know that they'll be done by December if they're going to be a junior next year, or they should take the ACT. So something to consider.
Dumb question. How does the 2-hour digital exam differ from what the exam is now?
It's a great question. So the math and grammar are basically the same, but it's the reading that's going to change. And instead of being, a long reading passage and then maybe 10 questions on that reading passage, students will only get one short passage and then one question on that short passage. So no more long passages. There's also just more reasoning questions and some actually cool questions. I actually think that they did a good job on the remake, but this first year of students will unfortunately be guinea pigs for the new test.
Yeah, that's wild. I always enjoy talking with you because you know what's coming and you know like where we are in terms of testing and maybe how to get an edge and what students and parents need to know about. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go, David? This has been great, very helpful.
Thank you. Just if families would like a vetted list of the best tutors, they can head to nationaltestprep.org, and we would be happy to, help you find the best tutors in your area.
Awesome, David Blobom. We really appreciate your expertise and your thoughts and all that valuable information you're sharing with so many people here in Memphis and across the Mid-South. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Did you know that more than 3,500 people are waiting for a heart transplant right now? The past month, back in April, we talked so much about it being Donate Life Month, and many of them will wait no longer than 6 months. Some will die while waiting for that transplant, that life-saving transplant. But as Action News 5's Andrew Douglas shows you, doctors are using not so perfect donor hearts to give people a second chance to be able to live their best life. Take a look at this.
It was just another day of hiking when Jacob May had the wind knocked out of him.
It took me twice as long to get back to the truck. I was completely short of breath.
Jacob had beaten leukemia more than a decade ago and was told the chemo could one day cause heart problems.
It came on very suddenly.
Diagnosed with congestive heart failure, the 46-year-old needed a heart transplant.
They told me it could be years wait time, it could be a couple of weeks.
There's a big gap between the number of patients that are awaiting organs and then the number of organs available every year for transplantation.
But innovative approaches in heart transplantation gave Jacob more options. Doctors at the University of Utah are using hearts that wouldn't have been acceptable just a few years ago for transplantation, but now include hearts that are infected with hepatitis C.
There have been new medications developed that are curative for hepatitis C, so antiviral medications that will eliminate the virus.
Even if the donor has not received treatment for hep C before death, doctors say they can transplant the organ.
While the virus will be transmitted to the recipient, will provide treatment for hepatitis C and eliminate the virus fully within the first weeks after heart or other solid organ transplantation.
Jacob waited 111 days before he was matched with a heart infected with hepatitis C.
We figured the risk was worth taking to give me a new lease because there was no telling how long the old one was going to hang out for me.
And so far, Jacob has tested negative for hep C and will continue to be tested for it, but he says it's a risk worth taking.
I've got a total of 6 kids altogether, so it's going to give me a chance to spend time with my family.
Doctors say using hearts infected with hepatitis C for transplants can add an additional 200 transplants in the U.S. only. Doctors say in the future that possibly HIV-infected hearts will also be viable for transplantation. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5.
Very interesting there. Well, looking ahead, the Stax Museum of American Soul Music is celebrating 20 years with a big party. The museum opened May 2nd, 2003, and in 20 years, the Stax Museum received the Tennessee Governor's Arts Award and is part of the United States Civil Rights Trail. It remains the world's only museum dedicated to the legacy of Stax Records, the Memphis Sound, and all-American soul. So like I said, they're going to be doing a big party. The Stax 20th birthday celebration is going to be tomorrow at the museum Studio A. The event is going to feature tours, live music, and of course, guest speakers. That starts tomorrow at 1 p.m. Well, $8.8 billion lost. That's according to the Federal Trade Commission, which received more than 2.4 million reports of identity theft, imposter scams, and other types of fraud last year. Now, in this Watching Your Wallet report, consumer investigator Sharice Jackson has more on this finding and also some advice from the AARP on how you can avoid becoming a scam victim. Take a look at this.
From imposter scams to credit card schemes, fraud reports continue to climb across the country. Consumer advocates from the Better Business Bureau and the AARP are hearing from people concerned about scammers targeting their personal information and money.
We serve over 400 people every day who think that they might have been victims of fraud or even have a question about a fraud situation.
That's why Amy Novziger with the AARP says they've recently issued a fraud survival guide that covers common schemes and how to protect yourself from them.
We really want to bring people back to the basics when it comes to fraud and take some proactive steps that they can do for themselves.
The first step is simple. It starts with what you have in your wallet or purse. Novziger says many people still carry personal information that scammers are just waiting to grab.
There are a lot of people who are still carrying their Social Security cards in their wallet. That is a gold mine for a criminal if you lose it or if they steal it. So take your Social Security card out of your wallet.
Novziger says it's also important to protect yourself against identity theft.
A lot of people just still have the comfort level of writing a check, and criminals know that they can steal these, wash it off with a quick little chemical compound, and then rewrite that check for whatever amount they want. Do not put any of these checks in your outgoing mailbox, and really don't even put them in a big blue mailbox. Take them directly to the post office or consider some sort of e-pay.
And then there's the all too common email and social media scams, where fraudsters often pretend to be a legitimate business. Novziger suggests doing a privacy check regularly on any of your social media pages.
What you want to do is not allow anybody to friend request you that basically you don't know or have any connections with. This is a way that a lot of scammers victimize, their targets is through social media. So we need to do what we can to protect our social media pages.
Small but quick fixes in your life to help fraud-proof your world. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there, so places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 in Ripley, and as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight. and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning, there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly, there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Bill Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Okay, take a look at the latest edition of Memphis Magazine. FedEx at 50 yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is Raj Subramaniam. We talked to John Sparks, the author of that article. That is in the edition today and this month. Also is some focus on some eats and some drinks and some local places to go. And joining me now to talk more about this article, Dining Out, for example, Sam Chichi, the author of it. He's joining us on the digital desk to talk about this month's edition of Memphis Magazine. Good to see you again, Sam, as always. Tell me about this Hook Point Brewery tap room. I'm familiar with Hook Point. I believe there's an affiliation with veterans. And I think they brew the beer out in Collierville, but this new tap room's in East Memphis. Am I right so far?
That's right. Yeah, the founder, Mike Sadler, he's a former Navy pilot. Kind of made his career out of that, and is still flying today for FedEx. But yeah, the name Flat Hat for their kind of signature beer brand comes from a term for unauthorized low altitude flying. So you can see those kind of veteran Navy fingerprints all over the really cool stuff. But yeah, Mike has been operating the Flat Hat brand since 2014 actually, but most of their beer has been available from their distribution center out in Collierville. And during the pandemic, he kind of started looking around for places he could set up a tap room, because that had always been part of his goal to create this space kind of in the heart of the city where people could come and try more of their beers. They could try more things, maybe serve some food as well. So they opened this place up in Brookhaven Circle just a couple months ago, and I think East Memphis has really taken a liking to it. I hopped out there a couple months ago, and it was a really great environment, a very nice open space. So many different beers to try, a lot of really cool bar snacks. If you're a beer fan, you got to try it out. I know Flat Hat hasn't been readily available to a lot of people, or they might just have missed it. So this is a great opportunity to just try a new beer and add something to your beer collection.
Yeah, you had the tough assignment of going out there and going to tap room and trying the beers and trying the food. You said it's only been open a short time. Brookhaven Circle's become such a trendy spot there, with Hog and Hominy and several others. It sounds like a great spot for a tap room as well. Tell me a little more about the atmosphere. Is it a big place inside? Is it inside and out?
It's inside and out. It was still kind of wintry when I went over, so the patio was closed. But yeah, they've got a really spacious interior. They've got a really long, very nice bar you can sit at if you want to just hang out by yourself and watch the game. But they've got a separate, really large room, which has some pretty big tables. I think they've got a large community table in there alongside a bunch of other, smaller ones. So it's a great place to go if you want to just, have a beer for fun after work or something, or if you just want to, even take the family out or grab a large group of friends and, sit at that table, maybe meet some other Memphians and strike up a conversation, or, they've got plenty of shareable snacks in there too, which is definitely something I want to talk about. First of all, I think it's really exciting that a brewery or a tap room is, kind of serving its own food. You don't normally see that. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes, but Mike told me that was always one of his first goals too. He's like, we got to serve our own food, and I think they've got a really diverse range of stuff. I didn't get to try their brunch, but they had these really good chicken and waffle dishes that I'm gonna try next time. They got a very cool blueberry compote pancake, which looked fruity and delicious and nice and blue and fluffy. But for my part, I tried a lot of the savory snacks. I think I got to draw attention to the duck wontons. Those were delicious. These little crispy fried triangular flat wontons with, I think, minced duck and a little bit of bacon in there too. It was just an excellent snack to really kick off the whole thing. And, stuff like pretzel bites, that's a classic bar snack. There are just so many different things that I think lend themselves to being the perfect accompaniment to a beer. So, whatever they're doing over there, they really got it down pat. And I think another cool fact is that they use beer, and I think almost all of their recipes. I know the Afterburner bites, these little spicy chicken bites, they use their red ale in there, and that gives it a little bit of an extra kick to it too. And I just think it's a really cool way to incorporate all the cool stuff they're trying into their kind of innovative menu.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I like the beer can too. You got a really cool beer can there next to Mike and his wife there. It looks like a naval aviator. I mean, you're supporting a business started by a U.S. veteran, a Navy veteran here, in addition to the drink, also the food. You can learn more about Hook Point Brewery's tap room in the pages of the Memphis Magazine here, this month's edition. That's what we're looking at right now. I also want to go to an article, Sam, you also wrote about getting some craft cocktails at Supper Club on 2nd. I went there a few months ago when it opened, and we had that one really nice table right by the street there, right by the glass. It was really a nice place. It was almost like a private table in a way, and I had the short rib, and it was excellent. They call it the shoddy rib, and it was quite good. Tell me about the cocktails.
I only got to try one, but it was delicious. I watched the bartender Stephanie put that all together. She was so meticulous about her craft. It was like watching an artist at work, just how she layered everything in there. I know a lot of bartenders around town are very talented, but I'm no mixologist myself. But I tried the smash on 2nd, and wow, just all the things going in there. Based around cognac, putting all the cool berries. You got the little blueberries on top. There was so much color in there. It's one of those things where you see someone carrying it down the bar, and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to grab one of those. And then, you got the little edible flower garnish on top. I mean, wow, I got to get back there and try the rest of the cocktails. I only got to try this one, and, already I'm like, hey, when can they send me back out there again to try some more? And really the whole place is just so chic. I mean, you have the celebrities and stars portraited around the place. In the picture there, you can see Denzel Washington. You have just plush green velvet chairs. You got the golden light fixtures. I think I described one as like a star bursting or something like that. You just kind of bring that little astral look up there. It's phenomenal. I really don't think there's anything like it downtown, and it's packed all the time. It's so crazy. I see open tables a lot of places. That place is always packed whenever I walk by. It's amazing.
Yeah. 85 South 2nd Street, and it was a good time when I went, and certainly looks like it was a good time when you went. Again, you can read more about it in this month's edition of Memphis Magazine and memphismagazine.com. Sam Chichi, always appreciate the conversations. Keep up the good work and those tough assignments, man.
Of course. Thanks so much.
All right, so each and every month, what we like to do is talk with Google, because a lot of times, we kind of get an inclination of what's happening in the world, what's happening in this country when it comes to the searches that Google gets each and every month or throughout a given time period to really kind of understand, what people are talking about, what they're looking up, how they're seeing certain things. And so each month we like to bring in a Google expert. We have Google technical expert Jennifer Jones joining us on the digital desk this morning. And Jennifer, good morning to you. I always like going and looking at kind of the odd trends, the odd news for the month of April as we review different things. And I have to say, nail art. Is there any explanation why nail art was one of the things that people searched in Google this month? How are you?
I'm great, and I'm also quite interested in the huge trend of nail art. It's certainly something that seems to not be new. Last year, there were about 5 billion, with a B, billion global searches on YouTube for nail art. It's quite a trend, and it's something that we're seeing in an increasing popularity across YouTube and across the creator trends.
Yeah, it's something that I'm actually going to have to Google later today, to figure out exactly what the deal is behind all this. But looking at some other searches, I'm seeing, entertainment, the Barbie movie, Coachella, of course, culture. We have Easter and Passover. No surprise there, along with Tax Day. Science, with Earth Day this month. I mean, a lot of things happening in the month of April. Did you see maybe more searches this month than previous months?
Well, it certainly depends on the topic. You hit a few of the entertainment highlights, which are always popular among folks who turn to Google and across the globe. You're right, Barbie did drive the searches in April. No surprise there. It's a highly anticipated film, which is going to be directed by Greta Gerwig and packed with Hollywood stars, but a huge increase in searching for Barbie. And anything Barbie core or Barbie related this last month.
Right, and it's interesting looking at everything that's happened in the month. I mean, NBA basketball, of course, we're in Memphis. The Grizzlies won last night and so they've made the series with the Lakers 3-2. I see that the NBA scoring record was something people searched, along with the Masters. Of course, that was just a couple of weeks ago, and pickleball. And we know everyone that loves pickleball is the first thing out of their mouth is, well, it's the fastest growing sport in America. I get that, but I guess now people are finally searching it now, huh?
Yeah, you're right. And there's a lot of interest in general about the sport. There are people who are searching with a deeper interest in the sport, who maybe have played for a while, who are searching, what is the best pickleball paddle to use. And then we've seen a large trend of just some basics about the sport, like what is pickleball? How is it played? Can you play it on a tennis court? So it seems that it's all over the map with the level of interest, but I don't think that it's going away.
Yeah, there's no question. The local gym where I go, it's like pickleball courts have taken over some of the basketball courts. Something else when it comes to food, you guys always list kind of food there. National Burrito Day, and I'm assuming that was in April. And our country's fascination with Taco Tuesday and just either Tex-Mex or Mexican food. Not surprised National Burrito Day was at the top of the list. What were people searching for with regards to that?
Yeah, so local burrito spots near me were very popular as far as, utilizing Google Maps and being able to find a spot next to you to get a quick burrito. We saw some top trends with several local chains, but also some national chains when it comes to the delicious treat of a burrito. It's such a versatile and easy to eat dish. Not surprisingly to many, Chipotle was the #1 national researched burrito chain, followed closely by Qdoba, and then Moe's Burritos came in third in our top trends across April for burritos.
What else kind of made your eyebrows go up a little bit looking at the list for April trends? Anything else?
Coachella, of course, we talked about it briefly at the top. It was a hugely popular trend, one of our largest trends. A lot of folks wondering about how many people attend the 2-week festival in California, which is held every April. If you want to know, about 250 people over the 2 weeks of Coachella. And of course, a lot of folks were interested in headliner Frank Ocean, who took the stage on the first weekend, but then had a bit of a difficult set and wasn't able to return for the second weekend and was replaced by another band. And so a lot of people were searching about news for Frank and news for who was going to replace him.
Okay, interesting. Well, we have our own Beale Street Music Festival coming up in about a week or so. So that's something that we're going to be watching. These are all fascinating. Just kind of see where the country is, the current events, that sort of thing. People are watching. I know that people can see these Google Trends for themselves. Tell us where we can find it.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for me to come on a monthly basis. You can go anytime and see what is trending and what is spiking live at google.com/trends. Check it out and let us know what you think.
Jennifer Jones with Google, we appreciate you breaking down the trends for April. Thanks very much.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, creating healthy boundaries. Boy, that is a goal for so many people. It doesn't really matter what age is either. I mean, when you're younger, when you're in your teens, your 20s, or even as older adults, we want to create healthy boundaries. Let's bring in right now Alice White. She's a counselor at Methodist Le Bonheur. Good morning, Alice. Let's talk about what healthy boundaries actually means. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having me. So first of all, I'd like to kind of define even what is a boundary. And the APA defines a boundary as a psychological separation that protects the integrity of an individual or a group, or that it helps an individual or group set realistic expectations or limits on participation in a relationship or an activity.
So how do you know if you are one of those who really needs to, identify a healthy boundary and work towards that? I mean, how do you know if you don't have healthy boundaries, I guess?
So I want you to ask yourself a few questions. Maybe ask yourself, what is causing you stress right now? Maybe who or what drains your energy, but also who or what makes you feel supported. Those might be some questions that can help you figure out where you need to set boundaries.
Okay. All right. I'm following you so far. So, we have the healthy boundaries. We want to set them. And sometimes we need others to kind of know that we're trying to set these healthy boundaries. What's the best way to tell them without, upsetting them?
So we like to use, in the counseling realm, we like to use I statements. And so I would start out by coming from yourself. So I need X, Y, or Z. Try to be clear, straightforward, show them exactly what your boundary may look like. Being assertive and direct will help with clear communication, and also being firm in your communication to reiterate what your boundary is and what that expectation looks like.
My understanding is sometimes people feel guilty about telling folks, okay, hey, I need to set these healthy boundaries. How can we not feel guilty about doing this? I mean, it's about self-improvement and being self-aware and trying to make ourselves better for not just ourselves, but for everyone else, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest thing I think when we maybe break our own boundaries is that feeling of guilt. And that's a really heavy emotion to feel. Maybe it's we feel we're making ourselves feel guilty, or the other person that we're setting a boundary, it makes us feel guilty. So kind of how to deal with that. Remember kind of the reason why you're setting the boundary. The big reason for me is to protect myself, right? So remembering that you're doing this for you and that it protects you. You're not trying to hurt another person. You're trying to protect yourself.
How often do we need to reevaluate our boundaries? I mean, we could set it great in, 2 years ago, but then now some other issues have come up. Maybe we've changed jobs or what have you. How often should we reevaluate?
I would say in the beginning, when you set a new boundary, kind of checking in after you've implemented that boundary a few times. Check in and make sure, is this boundary working? Is it are people respecting my boundary? Am I holding up my own boundary? So I think early on, you want to check in with yourself. And then if you feel like it's not working or other people aren't respecting your boundary, then that's when you need to reevaluate your boundaries.
Gotcha. This is interesting stuff here, Alice. Where can we go to get some of the information you mentioned here? It'd be nice to maybe find a website to do that.
Yeah, so Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare has an online blog that you can go to, and I believe it's yourhealth.methodisthealth.org, and it has a lot of different articles on there, whether it's medical or mental health.
Okay, Alice White with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare, counselor, talking about healthy boundaries. We appreciate your time, Alice. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
All right, an evening with Groucho. I don't know if you heard, it's coming to the Halloran Center May 6th. Dubbed nothing short of masterful by the Chicago Tribune, award-winning actor Frank Ferrante brings his acclaimed stage portrayal of the legendary comedian right here to Memphis. And we got a treat today because we have Frank here on the digital desk with us this morning. Hey, Frank, how you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. Appreciate your time. Hello to everyone.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on the show. We'd love to be able to kind of get a preview of some of the great performances that come out to the Halloran Center. I'm familiar with Groucho Marx, and just from looking at the video, it's quite the portrayal. Tell us a little bit about the show and what people can expect May 6th.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. It's a comedy with music, and whether you know Groucho or not is incidental. It's a show that I've done for over 35 years around the world, in New York and London and in Bartlett many years ago. But it's a lot of it's improv and it's storytelling and songs, and it's all centered around this great character of Groucho Marx, who, in my opinion, was the greatest comedian the country's produced. It's very fun and very fast-moving and really fun for all ages. I've enjoyed making new generations of fans around this humor.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It looks like it's a very entertaining show. And like you said, people that aren't familiar even with Groucho can come out and have a good time, get to know this legendary comedian. And I know you were saying that you've been doing this for decades, doing this show. I know you mentioned coming to Bartlett. That's actually my hometown. How did you stumble upon really just embodying this character and really making this, something that has been long lasting? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. When I was about 10 years old, I saw a Marx Brothers movie, black and white film. I was a kid in a small town in California, and it was the day at the races. And on the screen, on my TV set, were these three crazy, wild men. Groucho with the cigar and the mustache, and the wisecracks, and the brother Harpo, who was silent and played the harp, and Chico, who played the piano and had an Italian accent. And they were just wreaking havoc, and it was exhilarating. And I never laughed that hard in my life. And so I went into my local library and started researching everything about the Marx Brothers and comedy. And that just continued to evolve. And I studied theater And when I was 22 years old, I graduated from school, and I was cast by Groucho Marx's son to portray Groucho Marx from age 15 to 85 in a show. And so that's what happened. It was a great honor. So I was in New York and London performing as Groucho. But to get to your question, there was just something so wild and free. And Groucho's such a great physical comedian and verbal comedian. And he's irreverent, and he does things and says things we could only dream about doing. And as a shy kid, I found him so exciting. And that's what I try to do in the show, is to remind people of how exciting he was as a comedian, physically and verbally, all those great lines and scenes. But my favorite part really is the improv. A third of the show is improvised and audience interactive. Every show is different, and I take great joy in still performing it. I've done over 3,000 performances worldwide. Never played downtown, right in Memphis. So that's the Orpheum, the Halloran, is one of those theaters that the Marx Brothers would have played back in the day 100 years ago. So I'm excited to be in Memphis.
Yeah, I always love to hear the backstory when it comes to how people kind of get into these roles and things like that. And I thought it was interesting too, you talking about being shy, and probably for you it was a way for you to kind of like get behind a character and be able to maybe embody something that you typically wouldn't because of being introverted in that way. And I love the fact that there is so much improv too, because like you said, every show is going to be different, right?
Absolutely, and that's something that grew over time, to tell you the truth. When I first did the show in school, it was pretty straight. I did the songs and I did stories, and the stories are wonderful. Like I said, you don't have to know anything about Groucho because his life is interesting. So he's this great American life. He's a survivor who made good. But slowly I started like doing, and someone would cough or come in late and I'd make a joke and I'd get huge laughs. And I thought, oh, this is what's working. And Groucho Marx used to do that in movies like on stage in Animal Crackers and Coconuts. And he had a TV show called You Bet Your Life for 14 years, from the late 40s through early 60s. Welcome, You Bet Your Life. Say the secret word and divide an extra $100. It's a common way, something you see every day. And so he would improvise with contestants on this comedy quiz show. And that's what was funny. He was remarkable. He was probably the greatest wit the country produced. And so I started improvising more and more, and some of the set material, some of the songs I'd cut out in lieu of the improv, or I'd get rid of some stories, because that's what audiences like, because it's happening right then and there. It's right there, right in front of people, and they know they're getting something no one else is getting. That's fun, and I surprise myself sometimes. I have no idea what's going to happen from night to night, nor does my piano player, Gerald Sternbach, who's also flying in from Los Angeles. He's played for Carol Burnett. He's played for Mel Brooks. So I got this great support musically. But the improv is exciting. I recently became friendly with Bobcat Goldthwait, the comedian who was best friends with Robin Williams. And he paid me the best compliment. And Bobcat said to me, "You remind me of Robin," which was like, Robin Williams was one of my heroes, just like Groucho Marx is. So that came over time, but it's like anything. It's the more you do, you hope the better you get. So what audiences will get in Memphis is the culmination of about 38 years of developing the show. I do other things, acting and directing, but this show has been a constant in my life. And it always delights me to see the response of people of all ages and backgrounds, as if they never experienced this type of improv. And crowd work, they call it.
Yeah, and to me, improv is such a gift. I mean, and the fact you have a great, I know you were talking about the pianist that is on the show. I mean, they're able to pivot with you and they can kind of read your moves and what you're going to do. But I mean, improv like that is a gift, and to be able to get that audience reaction and to kind of keep the rhythm going, I mean, that's really awesome. And I like the fact that it's a different show, and it's always something, it keeps it new and exciting for you as well. And so I know the show, it's May 6th, and we want to get people out there. I know tickets are on sale right now. Any other last things you want to mention about the show, what people can expect when they come out?
Well, thank you. They should expect the unexpected. And if you love theater, if you love live comedy, if you love stand-up, if you love storytelling, this is the right show. And if you want to see a show that's been around for a while, from Australia to London throughout. I played over 500 cities. This is a fun show to go. It's great for a date, believe it or not, and it's also fun for families. So thank you.
Well, Frank, it's been a true pleasure having you here on the Digital Desk. And while you're in Memphis, by the way, I want to ask you, is there obviously you've been to Bartlett before, anything you're wanting to do while you're in town, or any favorite spots or any places you want to make sure to hit up?
You're going to have to tell me, but for me, it's barbecue, barbecue, barbecue.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's an unlimited amount of places, and all of them are just delicious depending on what type of dry rib, wet ribs, brisket. I mean,
Right.
You can't go wrong with any place in town. So we look forward to having you May 6th, and I know it's going to be a great show. You have a great morning, all right?
Thank you. Take care, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Hey, let's one more time talk about the details here. So May 6th, tickets just $37.50. Great price. I mean, something for the whole family. And you know, like Frank mentioned, a great date night. So head over to orpheum-memphis.com and get those tickets now, because I know they're going to go fast. Right now, though, let's take a live look. Midtown Memphis. It is a beautiful start to the week. A little chilly this morning when you got up. I know when I was heading into work, I had to grab the jacket because it was a bit cold out there. But let's go ahead and get the breakdown of your forecast from meteorologist Spencer Denton. He's breaking down the week for you. Memphis in May, kicking off with the Beale Street Music Fest next weekend. And like a lot of people suspect, you know, years past, they call it, you know, Mudfest. So are we going to see that rain? Let's go ahead and check in with meteorologist Spencer Denton.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there. So places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 in Ripley, and as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight, and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Beale Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Tax day is over. Phew, that was close. All right. So we know that we like spending money as Americans, getting the latest and greatest, and the stress of tax day is now behind us. People may be tempted to get something more, maybe splurge a little bit, but hold the phone, okay? Maybe you should budget more. Maybe you should save more. What are you going to do with this tax refund if you're lucky to get one? Let's bring in someone that's going to help us with that. Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, a nationally recognized financial expert and author, is here at the Digital Desk to really talk about maybe some better choices of how to handle that tax refund. And Stephanie, I got to ask, what do you think is the first thing that people should do if they get a refund? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Well, according to Barclays Bank most recent consumer survey, the majority of Americans are actually hoping to use their tax refund to build their financial security. So we've got some pretty good intentions. Now it comes to how do we put those good intentions to build our financial savings, maybe pay down our debt, into practice. And I think in order to do that, it's going to look different for everybody. We got to start by taking stock of our own financial picture and see what we own versus what we owe. And if we owe a lot, maybe we got to take inventory of that debt and see what we owe, to whom, monthly minimum payment, and our interest rate on each debt, so we can prioritize what it looks like to build all those minimum payments into our budget, and then make progress on making payments above the minimum payment on the debt with the highest interest rate, and make progress such that we pay off that debt and then the next highest interest rate debt and then the next, so we can get to our financial security as cost effectively as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not the sexiest thing to say, hey, wait, you got a big chunk of change. You can't go to Europe or the Caribbean. No, you got a budget. You got to pay off that debt, put some in the savings. I mean, I think that is a great first start. Why is it, though, that so many Americans have just a hard time on saving there? Because we're supposed to have, like, what, 2 months of cash reserves just in case for emergency purposes, right?
That's right. At least 2 months in emergency savings, ideally maybe 6 months, maybe more. After the pandemic, we had people out of work for more than 6 months. So you always want to think about, you know, what's the financial security I need and the emotional security I need to get through another potential financial emergency. Now, when you're trying to figure out how to prioritize this along with your other financial goals, it's really important to make sure that you're making the most of the savings that you do have. So if you go open up a savings account at your local brick and mortar bank, oftentimes you're getting very, very low interest rates on that savings account. And we always talk about, I want to make my money work better for me. But if you're getting 0.35% interest on your savings, which is around the national average, you're really not getting a lot there. So I like to shop around with my savings like I do for anything else. And I really like online high yield savings accounts, which offer interest rates much, much higher than the average. Barclays, for example, has a high yield online savings account with a very high interest rate. They've got no minimum balance requirements, no monthly maintenance fees, plus the FDIC insurance. And as you mentioned, people are having a hard time building up this kind of savings, and that's because prices have been on the rise. Inflation has been the big story these last couple of years. Most recent numbers, 5% increase year over year on our cost of living. And that's not just the vacations, the exciting, sexy stuff. That's the stuff we need, like our groceries, like our housing payments. And so if you really want to build this stuff into your budget, I like to make saving, debt payoff, investing a line item on the budget, just like I do those other expenses.
I like that. That's a great idea. High yield savings accounts. And you're right. Inflation is still outrageous. I know we had something that said it's down to 5%. Well, it shouldn't be higher than 2%. It's still affecting us. I mean, eggs are outrageous, and airfare, my gosh, flying anywhere is super high. So I know that a lot of Americans are starting to go back in debt as a result of a lot of things, including inflation. What's the best method an effective method, the most effective, to pay down debt that so many Americans are accumulating right now?
Well, the best method to pay down debt is the one you can stick with, right? So the only way to figure out what that's going to be for you is to, again, start by taking inventory of what you owe and build it into your budget as you're able. I talked about a method that's called the debt avalanche, and that's where you prioritize paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. For some folks, it might be tackling the debt with the lowest balance first, so you can see the progress you're making, and that then motivates you to make progress on momentum toward paying off the next debt. And I know that it's more cost effective to address your highest interest rate debt first, but again, it's what is going to work for you. Even if it costs you more over the life of your loan, if you're going to stick with it, if you see the progress of knocking out that low interest rate debt first, that's fine by me. Just make sure that as you're doing that debt payoff, you also are building your emergency savings, because if something does come up and you do get an unexpected expense like a medical bill or something happens with your car or your home that you must repair, you really want to have that high yield online savings there for you so you can tap into it and not put it on a high interest rate credit card and add more to your debt.
Just curious, Stephanie, for people out there, how do you find a high yield savings account in your hometown, for example? We're in Memphis.
So typically speaking, you're going to find your high yield savings accounts online. And the reason for this is the high interest rates and the annual percentage yields that you get in those online savings accounts, you get them because they have lower costs of operating. If you don't have to maintain the brick and mortar presence, that's a lot of money saved, and that savings gets passed along to the consumer in the form of these lower fees, in the form of these higher rates. And so going to resources like banking.barclaysus.com will give you information about how you can find your high yield online savings account, and it's really easy to set this up. I have done it. It's how I saved for my wedding. It's the first account that I opened with my husband. Great way to combine finances, by the way. And it's really a great way to maximize the money that you are saving, because when you do just go to your default bank that's on the street, there's a value to that, but you don't get a lot for your money in the savings account, and often in CDs, the interest rate isn't as high as these banks that have the high yield online savings account. So I definitely suggest comparison shopping, just like you do for anything else.
This is a conversation I could have forever, and I know it's very popular among so many people. It's just, financial literacy out there. So let me ask you this. If we have thousands of people that tune in each and every morning watching us here on the Digital Desk, if you were to give like bullet points, maybe 3 bullet points for someone that's looking to have better financial success in 2023, the tax season is now over, tax day has come and gone. What would you recommend?
I think you have to take stock of your full financial picture first. A lot of the times we think we know what we're bringing in each month because we know what we make annually or hourly, but what that actually looks like after taxes, after deductions, in our take-home pay can be very different. And we want to make sure we're planning off of our reality, not off of our aspirations. And then on the flip side, we got to take stock of our expenses. We talked about taking inventory of what we owe and to whom, but also this has to include those savings contributions. This has to include our essential living expenses, housing, groceries, utilities, insurance, all of that good stuff. And making sure, again, we're dealing with the reality of what we're spending, not what we think we're spending, because there can be a surprising gap between the two. And I think the third piece of this is maintaining accountability. So whatever's going to work for you to keep your finances top of mind, I like to say managing my money is a practice. It's not something I do once a year on tax day, and it's not something I do when there's a crisis, because that's just reactive money management. I want to have proactive money management. And so I think a bit like, I don't go to one yoga class and say, all right, I'm done, I'm fit for life, right? It doesn't work that way. I got to go back and I got to go back, and I get better every time I do it. Same thing happens with my money. I check my money on a daily basis. You don't have to be as much of a money nerd as I am to have a good, healthy relationship with your money, but you can certainly go ahead and make checking in on your money once points a week to see where it's going, tracking your budget, keeping yourself accountable, and making sure you're maximizing it with these tools like the high yield online savings, CDs, investment accounts, so that you really get your money's worth.
I love it, Stephanie. We've talked about a lot this morning. Where can we go to get some more information, including these tips that we talked about?
Yes, so it is Financial Literacy Month. I know we talked about how important financial literacy is. So you can head to this portal at banking.barclaysus.com. Again, that's banking.barclaysus.com, and go to the resources tab. There's a lot of tools, articles, information about how to manage these money goals, how to get the most from your money, and how to prioritize when you have a lot of money goals at once.
Okay, Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, we really appreciate the conversation this morning. I think we helped a lot of people with this and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks.
I hope so. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, have you planned everything out for the summer? Because so many people have, and guess what? The numbers are showing that international travel bookings right now are up some 200%, more than 200%. It's a crazy number. People not only want to travel, they want to go international. They want to see the world. Let's bring in Megan Cooper with AAA to talk more about this number. An extraordinary number, but I have to say, Megan, my family and I this past spring break, we went to Costa Rica, and it was fabulous. Our producer, Amanda Hansen's got an amazing honeymoon plan internationally. I mean, I can totally get it. People are just ready to go. What are some of the reasons?
So people are more comfortable with traveling. So, we've seen that trend over the last couple of years, but people are ready to go. They're ready to get out and see new places. And, we're seeing that reflected in our travel bookings. So we're up 200% on international travel bookings compared to last year. The biggest increase we've seen is in hotel bookings. That's up over 300% compared to last year. So people are comfortable, they want to get out, and they just want to see the world.
I totally get it. That is so true in the people that I interact with a lot. So let's talk about, I guess, a priority list. What are some of the guidelines, since we probably know, with thousands of people watching us right now, we are either going international or we know a friend that's going international. What are the ways to really kind of set that list, that checklist for everybody?
Right. So one of the first things that you want to do is prioritize your passport. So if you have a trip planned or you're thinking about traveling internationally and you either don't have a passport or your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and get that taken care of as soon as possible. We are seeing a little bit of a longer wait time on some of those passports. In some cases, maybe 7 to 9 weeks. And you need this to travel internationally. So first things first, if you don't have your passport taken care of and secured away, go ahead and do that right now.
Very cool. What about when it comes to packing and, my biggest fear was that, okay, our flight's going to get canceled and we're going to be, up a creek, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. So unfortunately, lost luggage, delayed flights, those are all things that we have to navigate now and always have when we're traveling. So if you're traveling with other people, with a family, with a spouse, with a friend, when you're packing, maybe try to spread clothing and those items that you think that you're going to need across multiple suitcases. That way you don't have one person that has absolutely nothing while another suitcase might have made it and one person has, everything that they need. When I personally travel, I try to keep everything in a carry-on and try not to check baggage. So if at all possible, if you don't have to check that baggage, maybe try to fit everything into a carry-on. If you are checking that baggage, maybe just go ahead and put some extra identification in there. So maybe take out a big sheet of paper and write your information on it, just in case that luggage tag is lost or something happens. You want a way to get that luggage back to you if it is lost or misplaced.
You are a rarity, Megan. The women in my family, they all have to check luggage. Like I've even mentioned that. Like, hey, why don't we carry on? It'll make it better. They're like, No, what are you, crazy? We have to check luggage. So hats off to you. I'm even more impressed by you with that response.
It's taken years of practice, I will say.
I bet. You know, that's the other fear, though, that the luggage is going to get lost. I mean, is there any way, I mean, obviously, you know, carry on is the best way. Is there any other way to maybe mark your luggage to make sure that it doesn't get lost, or is there something else that people can do?
You know, just make sure that you're checking that baggage early. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to check it in. Be mindful of how you're planning your flights. So if at all possible, try to book those early morning flights. Those have a less likelihood of being delayed. And then take a look at what destinations you're traveling through. Is it a nonstop flight? Obviously, with a nonstop flight, that's less places that your baggage has to go. So limit those in between destinations. And if at all possible, if you can't avoid those, you know, give yourself plenty of time at those different stops. And, you know, sometimes we just can't avoid losing our luggage. You know, sometimes the inevitable happens and, you know, you're that unlucky person. So that is one instance where travel insurance can really come in handy. And travel insurance does cover some of those costs of delayed flights as well as lost baggage fees.
Help me maneuver travel insurance for a second here, because I know travel insurance is a big question mark for a lot of people when they travel internationally. There's a train of thought that says, well, the travel insurance doesn't cover certain issues that are more likely to happen, so why even get it? And then there's another one that says, no, you need to get travel insurance and get the highest amount, or maybe you should get it for just specific things. Tell me where you stand, where AAA stands when it comes to travel insurance.
So with travel insurance, you know, we always advise for people to purchase this, especially if you're traveling internationally. You're likely spending a lot of money. So we want you to protect that investment. If anything happens, if you get sick, if you can't go on that vacation, if something happens while you're on that vacation, you know, we want you to be able to get that investment back if you at all possibly can. So with travel insurance, there are different options. So depending on what you're booking, how you're traveling, it really can be beneficial. So with those different types of travel insurance, you know, of course, some things are covered, some things are not covered. And I think it ultimately comes down to that personal choice and how comfortable with risk that you are. But just personally, you know, and from AAA, if you're making that investment and traveling, you really want to protect that so you're not losing out on money if something were to happen on that trip. And that's also where a travel advisor comes in very handy, because they can explain to you, you know, what travel insurance would look like for your trip, how much you need, what that would cost. And a lot of times it's really not that expensive to add on that travel insurance policy to your trip.
Good deal. I appreciate you explaining that. Anything else you want to mention that you feel is important for some of the people, some of our viewers, thousands of which join us each and every morning, when they're traveling internationally?
I think the biggest thing this year is planning ahead. You know, we're expecting things to be very busy. I've already heard reports this morning that we're expecting things to get even busier this summer. So if you haven't booked that international travel yet, go ahead and do that as soon as possible, especially if you're traveling this summer. But planning ahead, flexibility is key. If you are in the early planning phases of, you know, planning an international trip, some of those ways that you can save money are being flexible, maybe, you know, traveling in the off season, maybe traveling during the week versus on the weekend. But the biggest thing I think for travelers this year is start to plan early and book that trip early. You know, with the demand and the interest that we've seen so far this year, that's likely to continue throughout the rest of the year. So that sweet spot of getting the trip that you want at the price that you want really is going to come from planning ahead and booking early.
Megan Cooper, who only carries on her luggage on those international flights. Megan, I really appreciate you and all that you do for us here at the Digital Desk, informing our public about the do's and don'ts when it comes to so many different things, including international travel. Thanks very much.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there. So places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 in Ripley, and as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight, and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning, there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly, there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Bill Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Okay, let's talk about April being Second Chance Month. And in the U.S., 2 out of 3 people who have been to prison are arrested again, and 50% of them end up back in prison. Let's talk to Brandeis Leverett. He is a program manager for Persevere. It's based out of Tennessee. Brandeis, first tell me, what is Persevere, and tell me what some of the things that you encounter each and every day there. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Yes, Persevere is a national nonprofit. We actually operate out of 6 states, and we're looking to move into more states, but our biggest footprint is right here in Tennessee. So yes, we work with individuals who we like to call have been justice impacted or justice involved. And yes, we will teach coding and software development. Our participants have an opportunity within 6 months to a year to become certified full stack web developers. All of our programs are absolutely free. They come along with the equipment that's necessary. We offer wraparound services. We have support for transportation. Here in West Tennessee, we actually have transitional housing. So for individuals who we begin working with within the prison walls, once they're on a process of release, we have options and opportunities to continue to serve and help them make a better life for themselves, developing those skills to code.
That's fantastic. I understand you guys have only been around just a few short years since 2019. You're already in 6 states. I mean, it's growing pretty substantially at a really fast pace. I remember we talked to Stacy last time around. Tell me how you got involved.
Yeah, so yes, we're in 6 states, and since 2019, we've served about 800 participants. And then for me personally, I have a history and a career in education. And I tell people all the time, I was impacted on the other side of the wall. My father spent time in prison, and I watched the process of him being released and the struggle that he had to find gainful employment. So when this opportunity came, it was a no-brainer for me to jump on board the Persevere team. And I've really enjoyed the work that we do here.
You mentioned West Tennessee. It is significant in terms of where you are and helping people and how popular this program is. Can you just tell me a little more details of some of the outreach that you're doing in the West Tennessee, Memphis area?
Yeah, here in West Tennessee, again, we have our 2 programs. One is called Tech Alliance, and another one is called Families First. Tech Alliance actually serves the entire state. And then our Families First program, which is supported by the Department of Human Services, serves West Tennessee and all of its counties here in West Tennessee. And that program in particular not only works with adults, but it also works with students. It also works with young people between the ages of 9 and 18. Again, those services are provided for free. We offer career readiness, life skills support, and we have certified mental health counselors on staff who support the work that we do. And then when it comes to partners, we partner with a ton of organizations here in Shelby County and then across the state. So we got Knowledge Quest and Memphis Athletic Ministries, and we also work with the American Job Center almost hand in hand in some of the work that we do. And workforce development boards throughout the state support the work that we do. And of course, I can't help but to mention the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
So April is Second Chance Month. What do you want people, we have thousands of people that watch us on the digital desk here each and every morning. What do you want people to do with that knowledge that April is Second Chance Month?
Yeah, with April being Second Chance Month, and again, so many individuals are impacted by justice in this manner. I think one of the major things we want to do is we want to kind of beat back the stigmatism that comes along with that. When you get a chance to learn the stories of the individuals that have been justice impacted or justice involved, you can learn that, literally they made a bad choice at one moment in their life. And we believe that that shouldn't be a death sentence. That shouldn't keep them from opportunity after serving time and serving whatever that time, that should be, a barrier for the entire of their lives. We don't believe that should be the case. So in doing that, we also want continue to work with different partners. One of the things I didn't mention, but we have what we call technology employment specialists who go out and they work with employers to get employers involved in the process of what we're doing, to commit to say, hey, we're going to take on some of your graduates and participants to give them a chance. So that's ultimately what we would love for individuals to do, is to give individuals who've been justice impacted and justice involved a chance.
This morning, we talked about how crime is way up in Memphis and Shelby County this year already. A lot of it's juvenile crime. When you see stats like that, I know that I believe your organization helps juveniles. What happens with your kind of organization when there is an uptick in crime and there's a lot of juvenile crime? Is there any, I know you guys are focused on Second Chance, but is there any other kind of outreach or anything else that you guys deal with when it comes to this big spike in crime we're having, specifically juveniles?
Absolutely. There's a branch in belief in what we do about First Chance, right? To help individuals who have not yet been justice involved, but may be in environments in which that is all too common. So yes, we work with organizations throughout the county and state to offer young people an opportunity to be exposed to coding, to game development. We work with the individuals, a partner of ours is Epic Games. Those are the folks who are responsible for creating games like Fortnite. So we're able to work with them and introduce game development to our young people. Because again, for young people, it's about scratching that interest, beyond just traditional academics and education. And I think one of the biggest things that's really important, again, is that we can work with the entire family, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and then young people within those families can come together and find a common knowledge and even a common language through coding and game development. So those are things that we do.
Where can people go for more information, Brandeis?
Yeah, so our website is perseverenow.org, or just go to Google and type in Persevere and you will find us. And then this week, in honor of Second Chance Month, we're working with the individuals at Center for Employment Opportunities, and we're going to have a resource fair with tons of employers right here in the city who are going to be at the Lester Community Center on Saturday morning, starting at 10 a.m. And we will have that resource fair there. There are going to be a ton of organizations and employers that are ready to interview and give people a chance.
Okay, Brandeis Leverett with Persevere. We really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything this month, throughout the year, and God bless you guys. You guys are doing some amazing work. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, May is Mental Health Month. How is your mental health these days? There's always some form of news out there that addresses mental health, especially coming out of the pandemic here, 3 years since the pandemic began. We're always focused a lot more on mental health. In fact, Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading community-based nonprofit, has dedicated to addressing the needs of those living with mental illness and is encouraging everyone to consider how the world around them affects their mental health, from their neighbors to genetics. Let's talk more about this with the president and CEO of Mental Health America. Schroeder Stribling is joining us on the digital desk. I appreciate you joining us and telling us what apparently you have some data when it comes to mental health in 2022. Really interested in hearing some of your data. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and thanks for highlighting this month. So you're correct, May is Mental Health Month. This is a tradition that was started by Mental Health America in 1949, and we look at this as a really great annual reminder and opportunity to check in on our mental health and the mental health and well-being of our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, and our communities. And in conjunction with the start of Mental Health Month, we have released a report today that talks about the data from our National Prevention and Screening Program, which was launched in 2014. So about 6.3 million people came to take a self-test and check in on their mental health in 2022. And the results that we got were concerning, especially with regard to youth. They're consistent with what we've seen before, but they really tell us a great deal about who's in the most distress, and they draw our attention especially to folks who are 24 years and younger.
Schroeder, I have two older teenagers, and they constantly tell me a couple of things. They tell me that social media and the phone devices, smartphones, whatever, tablets, they seem to be, when it comes to mental health issues and things that distract or hurt their mental health, those two issues, social media and screens or devices like an iPhone or any kind of smartphone, really hurt. Based upon your research and whether it's this survey and others, is that what you're seeing?
You are absolutely right that there's a lot of conversation about what is the role of social media in the youth mental health crisis. And no doubt there is a correlation. And so I think your kids are right, and they're insightful to know that the social media and technology is having an effect on their mental health. One of the things that we do know is that about, as I mentioned, about 3/4 of those 6.3 million screeners were youth. And the most popular screen that people take is for depression. Anxiety comes next. And about half of the youth who took a screen for depression reported that they were having frequent thoughts of suicide. So that gives us a sense of the degree of the problem. And then when you ask people, what are the reasons for their distress? The three most popular answers given, and remember this is largely from young people, are concerns about body image, self-image, and relationships. And when we think about social media, certainly those issues of body image and self-image and relationships are all impacted by social media, which is mediating a lot of those relationships and which is giving youth a lot of sometimes distressing feedback about their self-image or their self-worth or their body image. So I think it is definitely one of the contributing factors and something for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a major contributing factor for sure. It's really interesting to hear some of that data coming from your screening data, Mental Health America. I understand that housing stability and home environment also plays a pretty large part of our mental health role. Explain that to me.
Yes, so each year we choose a theme for Mental Health Month. And this year, our theme is Look Around and Look Within. So in addition to this being a reminder for folks to check in on their own mental health, it's a reminder to think about how the natural and built environments around us are affecting our mental health. Now, there are some things that we have greater control over than others. Housing stability, sometimes we have greater control over that, but safety in the home, health in the home, where we can make positive changes, we want to encourage people to do that. So as we do every year for Mental Health Month, we've published a toolkit, and this year's toolkit is about looking around and looking within, helps people understand how they can get to that screening, take a self-test, check in on their own mental health, but also what they can do with the natural environment around them. And that could be as simple as changing the setup of the room that you live in or the apartment where you are, or spending time outside. And outside doesn't mean necessarily that you have to get to a national park. It might just mean that you're able to spend a little bit of outdoor time. For instance, I grew up in a small apartment in New York City, and there was a little tiny porch that we had, but it allowed for some outdoor time. So that's important to people's mental health. And those are the kind of tips and tricks that you'll find in our toolkit for this year.
You know, Schroeder, you stole my question there, because I was talking about Mother Nature with my kids, and they always love, whether it's a bike ride, going to a park. In Memphis, we have one of the largest urban parks in America. It's Shelby Farms Park. But our surrounding areas, there's tons of parks where people go and they can just walk and connect with nature and get, I guess, a clearer mind, just kind of just get away from the hustle and bustle of whether they're connected on a device or in classrooms or various settings, work, what have you. Having that Mother Nature connection can, I would think, really clear the mind a lot. Is that what you're seeing in some of your research? And what else are you seeing, ways that people can find maybe some good habits?
Well, you've really put your finger on something very important. Outside time and getting outdoors is enormously important to our mental health. There's lots of research that tells us. And once again, this does not have to be a national park. Just any outdoor time is good for folks. In fact, this May, we are partnered up with LL Bean for a challenge about outdoor time, and we're hoping to get people to log 500,000 hours of time spent outdoors during May. Could be any kind of outdoors, and you can find at our website, mhanational.org, you can find more information about our LL Bean challenge to spend time outdoors. Pardon me. So that's enormously important. The other thing that I would recommend is that we have a new book out in addition to our May Mental Health Toolkit. And our book is called Where to Start. And the title really says it all. It's about how to start thinking about mental health and mental health in your own life, how to be aware of what supports you best in your own mental health, and how to attend to our well-being, as well as checking in on that of our loved ones and family members and others.
You and I are on the same wavelength here, because my question now is, and I don't want to give the book away, but if there were, let's say, 3 bullet points about where people can begin, and we've already mentioned, clearing your mind, going on a walk or somewhere, maybe in a park or something like that. If you were to give people maybe 3 bullet points on how to start bettering your mental health, and we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here, where would you start with those 3 bullet points?
Well, the first, I think, and the most important is to get informed, is to get information. So just like we would about our bodily and our physical health, we need information so that we can take care of our mental health. And we need to know how we can check in on our mental health. So you can find a lot of information about mental health in general at our website, mhanational.org. or in the book. But the other thing that you can find is a link to our National Prevention and Screening Program. And that's the program where the free and anonymous platform that I mentioned before, where people can take any one of 11 validated tests, self-tests, to get more insight about how they're doing and to learn a little bit about their own mental health. So I think those are the most important things to start with. And then the last thing I would mention is to intervene or take action early. If you have signs of distress for yourself, if you're noticing changes in your mood, your appetite, your sleeping, your behavior that are concerning to you, get help early. So starting might be about taking a mental health test or screening, might also be about talking to a trusted loved one or sharing with someone, a therapist perhaps, how you're feeling, to see about getting help. So getting help early. And if you do find yourself in crisis, very important to know that we have a new resource. It's about a year old now, 988. For anyone who doesn't know about this new number, you can call or text 988 for a mental health crisis. And the goal is to have a mental health response to a mental health crisis. So that's another important resource that we like to get out during this Awareness Month.
Schroeder Stribling with Mental Health Awareness, or Mental Health America, the president and CEO. Really appreciate our conversation, and I think we really helped people kind of address this issue and help them if they need help out there, and just really kind of being in the know when it comes to what to do and some of the problems. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Chilly start this morning, but as we go through the day, it will gradually warm up some. It is going to be a windy day. That's the big weather story for today. We're talking wind gusts close to 30 miles per hour. Maybe not quite as windy as yesterday, but still it is going to be howling out there at times. So hang on to your hat for today. Let's talk about what to expect for the rest of the area. Again, temperatures holding around 70, northwest winds sustained at 10 to 20, and we'll see that sunshine across the entire Mid-South. Not quite as warm in West Tennessee, maybe mid to upper 60s there, so places like Ripley around 66, 66 as well in Brownsville. That's pretty much the number from Bolivar all the way up to Trenton and over to Selmer, Tennessee. Now a tad warmer as you go into North Mississippi. Oxford around 68, 67 in Holly Springs, 67 87 in Ripley. And as you go toward Clarksdale and Marks, around 70 degrees, not too bad. And as we go through the first day of May in eastern Arkansas, we're looking at highs in the upper 60s to near 70 as well. Let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another chilly night, lows in the mid to upper 40s, a clear sky, northwest wind 5 to 10. So the wind will die down some tonight, and then it picks back up as we go into tomorrow. But we have rain chances on the way as we go toward the end of the week. So I think by Friday morning, there could be some rain in the area, maybe a few thunderstorms, especially in West Tennessee. A warm front's going to move across the area, and that's what's going to kick off some of these showers and storms. Now, it may not rain in all locations all day long. Certainly, there's going to be scattered showers and storms, and even heading into Friday night and Saturday morning, some of those could spread into parts of North Mississippi. Then we may get a little bit of a break, and more action may develop at some point Saturday evening into Saturday night and into Sunday. We're not going to rule it out. And this looks like a pretty wet pattern, not only heading into the weekend, but off into next week as well. Now, again, it's not going to be a complete washout each and every day, but if you have big plans, I know Bill Street Music Fest going on this weekend. We've got a lot of outdoor area events happening. Just keep that in mind. Right now, we're thinking a 60% chance of rain on Friday. We may be altering these rain chances, though, as we go closer to the weekend. So check back for updates. I think we'll have a really good idea, especially by Thursday. So as we go through the week, we get closer and we get more consistent weather data. We'll let you know on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. But check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Those temperatures in the low 70s, still breezy both Tuesday and Wednesday, and lows at night still pretty cool in the mid to upper 40s. But then we start the warming trend heading toward the end of the week. Even with the clouds, temperatures should easily hit the mid to upper 70s. Wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't hit 80 degrees by the weekend. Lows at night nice and mild in the 60s by the weekend.
Well, that'll do it for us here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm going to leave you with a live look downtown Memphis. Stick around. We have midday headed your way at the top of the hour. We'll be back here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk bright and early tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock. Hope you have a great rest of the day.